All right, we're back with another one, bruh,
Yes,
and we
sir.
got a special guest here.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, bruh, massive shout out to everyone who's been giving us mad feedback. We really do appreciate it. But our special guest, bruh, I'm gonna get him to introduce himself, because yeah, he can do it way better than I can. But we're super grateful to have him in the space,
Oh,
bruh.
yeah.
So over to you, brother.
Thank you guys so much for having me. My name is Nathan, Nathan Cutter. I am 27 years old, born and raised here in Auckland, and back here briefly, and then shooting off to the next adventure. So thank you guys so much for having me come on while I'm here.
Bro, had to get you before you left, bro.
Yeah.
Wait, so you're only 27 years old?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Mm.
Why
know.
the guy?
Man, I'm old, bro.
How old are you?
I'm old, bro.
Oh,
I'm 29.
Oh, come on, 2 years difference. That's not.
30 in like 2 weeks.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's alright, bro.
Celebrate.
Age is nothing but a number.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
one.
very true.
That's the one.
Bro,
Although
so,
when you're a dancer, your body feels it.
yeah, hard, eh?
Yeah,
We
Your
say
body
that
feels it
mentally,
first.
but your body feels it as a
Bro,
dancer.
straight
When you
up.
think about it, it's just a number.
I can't.
And when you move,
Those 30-year-old knees start coming through.
they here. They here.
I can't. So Nathan, bro, tell us a little bit for those listeners out there who don't really know about your journey, bro. Maybe just give us a little introduction about just what you're doing, how you got into the scene, etc.
Right. So I have been a dancer pretty much my whole life. I started when I was 5 years old down at a local studio in Sandringham called The Dance Studio, run by Jackie Cezanne. And I started there with, a program called Boys Dance 2, which was set up by her basically because, back then, 20 odd years ago, it was predominantly women in dance, and it was, sort of, if you were a dancer, you were considered sort of, gay or effeminate or whatever it was. So she set up a program called Boys Dance 2 that allowed her sons and other boys like myself to get into dance. And I'm so grateful, eternally grateful that she did so, because that just kind of led me to where I am now. And so I went through this program and we learned, jazz, contemporary, tap, hip hop, all of it. And then I sort of followed my passion with hip hop as well as tap. I did that for a number of years as well. But I followed my passion with hip hop all the way through. Started competing with crews in high school. There was a sort of high school crew that you were able to join, and eventually I ended up leading that in my last year at high school. But also outside of school, my friends and I started our own crew and competed in the local competitions. And that kind of led us across to the world competitions, and we managed to win ourselves a couple medals over there, which was, such an amazing experience. We learned so much through that, and that led us on, I guess, to getting more opportunities in terms of finally being able to earn money, through this sort of passion of ours. And then sort of over the last couple of years, I decided to move overseas myself and pursue sort of my own individual career outside of the crew scene, and managed to find some success in that, and I'm continuing to do so. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Grinding, bro, is mad. It's paying off.
Thank you,
Dope to
brother.
see, for sure.
Thank you.
Wow. That's insane, yeah. When did you decide to move overseas?
I think so. I lived in Los Angeles for 3 months in 2017, and that was soon after, like, the Brothers and I won Worlds in 2015 and then 2016, and I kind of always saw those opportunities as like a stepping stone to get me to that career path where I wanted to be on stage myself, performing with artists and the like. And so I moved to LA in 2017 on a tourist visa, and I was there training.
Yep.
You have to kind of say training at the border, because they won't allow you in if you say that you're kind of looking at auditions and stuff. So you're just there for 3 months training, but I also was taking auditions while I was there, just trying to, network and make friends. And so when my 90 days was up with that, I came back here to New Zealand, and I felt like a sense of disappointment. I felt like I hadn't booked a job over there. I got myself an agent while I was there, and I'd made some friends, but I hadn't booked a job. And you know, it's funny that the universe works in really mysterious ways. And but when I was over there, you know, obviously I was aiming for like working with an artist, and that didn't happen for me. And it kind of came down to my last week of being in LA, and I get this text from Mr. Kyle Tooten, who, you know,
Shout out to Kyle.
yeah, he's he's killing it. And back then, him and I had sort of worked together with Born to Dance, which was a film that we shot in end of 2014, 2015, I think it was. And so I'd seen him around the scene, and then he reached out to me and said, hey, I've got an artist in China that I'm putting together a group of boys for. We need 8 boys to come over, and we're going to, you know, do it's a one-off gig. We're just going to go one-off performance with her, and hopefully that'll, you know, lead to possibly more work with her. And of course, you know, I was like, oh, amazing, there you go. So it wasn't through me going to LA, but it was, I guess in the same sense, me putting that energy out into the universe that I wanted to work with an artist, that then Kyle just hit me up on that last week when I was feeling so disappointed. Absolutely. So then I sort of spent the next 3 years traveling back and forth we did China, Taiwan, Macau, Hong Kong, like all the different places. And we were over there for maybe 10 days sometimes, and then we'd come back home to New Zealand, and then we'd have maybe 6 weeks here, and he'd go, hey boys, I got another gig. And so that first gig kind of led to us having 3 years worth of sort of work on and off. We did some music videos, we did performances on live stage. It was incredible. And so that was sort of my experience of then traveling to sort of Asia. And then after kind of doing that work, I realized that I would like to find myself something consistent, because, you know, working with one-off gigs like that, it's really hard to budget. And throughout that period, I was still living at my parents' house, and I'm so grateful to them that they allowed me to live there and, you know, financially support me when, you know, because doing these opportunities are amazing, but they don't always bring the most money. And if you don't really know how to budget, like myself, I'm not the greatest with money in terms of sort of saving. And so I kind of had to learn across that period. And then I guess I sort of realized at the end of that 3 years that I would like to have something consistent. I was coming up to being 25 years old, and I thought, well, you know, at this point I probably should have moved out of home. I should have, you know, a sense of money and be able to stand on my own 2 feet. And so again, the universe, sort of something happened where through all the opportunities that I'd received with Kyle, I'd been posting on social media, right? And I'd been sort of growing my following in social media. And then I received an email one day from Magic Mike, one of the producers at Magic Mike, saying, hey, we saw you online. We love your sort of look, and we'd love for you to come and audition for our show. We're holding it in Sydney next week. Next week. Yeah. Wow. So I booked my ticket myself. I hit up the O'Neill twins, who were living there at the time. And again, I'm so grateful for all the people around me, because they allowed me to come and stay at their place when I went over there for the audition. So I went over there and I did the initial audition. Sort of paid out of my own pocket to get there, and then flew back here to New Zealand.
Wait. So you paid for yourself to travel over there?
Yeah, to do the audition. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so they invited me.
Even though they invited you, but then you still had to pay.
Yeah, for the initial thing. I guess because they were running auditions in Sydney and Melbourne, and they were just kind of reaching out to boys. So
to see who would show up.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's crazy.
Pretty much. I mean, before they reached out to me, I hadn't really considered doing a show like that either. Yep. But I say that, but at the same time, I do remember one of my friends, Brian, who I did the Australian tour with. We both booked the job, but he was with Magic Mike in London before that. So he'd been with them for a year or so. And turns out when I ended up booking the job, so I'm kind of jumping a few steps ahead here, but I ended up booking the job, and him and I had a conversation, and he said, oh, bro, I don't know if you know, but I sent through an email for you, like right before the audition. And I said, oh, hey, I see you guys are going to Australia. There's a guy that I know in New Zealand who would be great for this job. I think you should hit him up. And it was so funny, because when I spoke to the producers about this, they said, oh yeah, we sent you an email based off of seeing your Instagram. So it was sort of, you had built your own following and your own sort of look online, and that's what we wanted. But then not you know, maybe an hour later, we received an email from Brian coming in, and we thought, okay, fantastic. So like we're going the right path with maybe inviting this guy to
man.
come.
Gee.
So they were already looking at you, and then you're
Yeah, and then my
Brian
friends
email.
sort of, yeah.
Bruh.
And so again, I'm
Shout out
super
to Brian,
grateful.
bruh. Your homie's
Absolutely,
back.
Yeah, Brian.
absolutely.
Shout out to you, bro.
Bruh.
So I'm super grateful for all the people in my life that sort of have allowed
Yeah.
me to follow these paths. And yeah, so I flew over to Sydney, did the audition, came back in New Zealand, and then sort of a couple weeks later, they reached out and said, hey, we're going to do a callback. We've whittled it down to, you know, it was 50 odd boys, I think, that were auditioning at the time. And so we'll pay for your flight to come this time. So, and we'll put you up in an accommodation for a couple days, and then you can shoot back to New Zealand after that. So yeah, went over, did the callback, and then possibly a month later, received an email saying, hey, we'd love to have you as part of the tour. We're going to do some promo work in Melbourne in a couple months, and then the tour was supposed to start 2020, I believe. So we went over to Melbourne, did some promo, came back here, and then just start of 2020, we went to Belgium to do 6 weeks of rehearsals to learn the show, and that was incredible.
That
being
was-
there
wait,
for
so
6
you-
weeks.
Wait.
That's crazy.
I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot of things we can talk
Belgium.
about. Belgium. Okay, so
Yes.
so you went to you auditioned in Oz,
I auditioned in Oz.
and then you had to fly to Belgium
Yeah.
to learn everything
Yeah.
for a show to come back to
So,
Australia.
yeah.
And perform.
So the way that it worked for the tour was, so they, Magic Mike, they had their show in Vegas, and it had been set up there for, I think, 3 years at the time, and they'd had it at a casino. So it was a custom built sort of stage inside one of the casino. I don't know if it's a conference room that they're converted or whatever. So it's like a theater there. They had set one up in Berlin, and it was the same thing. They'd hired a theater, but those are both set in the city. And what they wanted to do with Australia was they wanted to tour, but then obviously they couldn't contact theaters and have them do it just for 6 months, like change the whole thing. So they had to come up with another plan. And so they ended up building a custom built tent that traveled with us. It's called a Spiegel tent, and it's only made by this one family. So these Spiegel tents are only made by this one family in Antwerp in Belgium. And so while they were building it, we were rehearsing. And then as soon as it was basically built, we were able to go inside and do
Get a
our
feel
sort of
of
perform.
the-
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
That's
we were able to do our
actually wild.
performances
That's
there.
insane.
So that's why we went to over there, because they were building it custom for us. And then they shipped it to Australia. And we were in that tent traveling, doing
That's
that thing.
insane.
So the whole show was in a tent.
In a tent, yeah. And when you
Bruh, 'cause
walk
we
in,
saw some videos, like, you know, on the stories and stuff, like
Yeah.
on your social media when people tag you in there. It looks like you guys are in a club.
yeah. So it's
Oh.
set up to emulate,
Yeah.
to
You would
emulate
never
the club
think it
over
was in
there.
a-
No,
in a
and
tent,
when you
bruh.
walk in, like it looks like, you know, one of those big sort of circusy tents, and then you walk inside, and the first thing you walk into is this beautifully made bar. So there's seating, and then there's, you know, all the bar stuff are there, and there's photos are on the wall that I think were taken by Channing himself. So it was his artwork around the place.
Bruh.
And then you walk inside the tent, and it's so you've kind of got the bar area, and then you walk inside there to your seating, and it's a 360-degree stage. So we performed not only on the stage in the middle, but also in the aisles throughout. There were little sort of what do they call them, satellite stages, which were up in the crowd that you stood on, and then lighting would turn on from underneath you and from above you. We danced on the railing, and all around. So it was cardio intensive, because you not only did the performances, but then you had to run to your next spot, and then you had to, you know. So
in terms of the fact, this is cool because you brought up like cardio in terms of the show. Like for these shows, how fit did you actually have to be, and how did you prepare yourself to do these amount of shows? Like, because I don't know how, like, tell us a little bit, like, how many shows did you have to perform a week?
Yeah, so we were doing 10 shows a week.
10
Damn,
shows!
10 a week. How long were the shows?
So there were, I think, about an hour and a half.
An hour and a half.
Yeah, so
Was it
we
like,
did.
how many a day?
So we did one on Tuesday. Let me get this right. One on Tuesday, 2 on Wednesday, 2 on Thursday, 2 on Friday. Hang on, I've got my calculations wrong here. Maybe we started on a Wednesday. Maybe we had Monday, Tuesday off. So it might have been 1 on Wednesday, 2 on Thursday. One on Wednesday, 2 on Thursday, 2 on Friday, 3 on Saturday, and then 2 on Sunday. I think I've got that correct.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
that's it.
I always remember the 3 show Saturdays, and the rest of the days were pretty much 2 shows, apart from that one day where we did 1. And that was sort of the start of the week. So definitely you started off sort of warming up with 1 show, and then you ramped up as you got to the end of the week. And then that 3 show Saturday was we did a 2 p.m. matinee. And sometimes they were the wildest because people just started drinking at midday and would come in.
Aussie rowdy, bro. They get litty
man,
out there.
absolutely.
Even on Sundays, go off over there. Right?
100%. They
Here,
do like
Sundays,
a recovery day, come on
you gonna
through,
get told
carry on
off.
drinking.
You get caught drinking on Sunday out here? But yeah, an Aussie Sunday sessions go off.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we when we did our 3 shows Saturday, we'd have a 2 p.m. Then we'd have a little bit of a break, which was kind of annoying because your body would cool down. And then you would have to warm back up again. And especially like for me, I did sort of the b-boy role within the show. Myself and a couple other guys, we did a lot of the breaking and a lot of the flips within the show. So I really had to warm up to make sure I didn't injure anything. So we did a 2 p.m., cool down, have some lunch, warm back up again. Then you'd have a 7 p.m. show, and then you'd have a really quick turnaround and start again at 9:30. So you would finish that 7 p.m. show at about 8:30. You'd have an hour to have a shower, maybe grab like a protein shake if you wanted between, and then jump into that last show on a Saturday night. And so we did that. And then, as you said, like Sundays, we had to come back and they were wild again because we did 1 show at 2 p.m. and 1 show at 7 p.m. on a Sunday. And the 2 p.m., obviously, they started drinking in the morning, bottomless mimosas, and then they'd come on through to the show. And
brunches, bro. They be getting
so it was a good time.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So then how did you, were you training during the week?
Yeah, so...
What did that look
You
like?
had to fit in your training?
Yeah, kind of. So obviously the show kept me pretty fit. And I was 25 at the time. And so, getting there, like my joints are starting to seize up a little bit. But that's crazy.
No, they ain't.
But
No, they ain't.
we got time. We got.
No, they ain't.
But I had to obviously become smarter because when I was 21, I could perform and not cool down and not stretch and I'd be fine, whereas I had to be a lot smarter about it. And so, supplements, just starting to take, like the protein and the creatine and all that good stuff that's good for you. But then sort of training was, I tried to go to the gym to do strength stuff as often as I could because obviously I wanted to build muscle mass while I was still doing so much cardio, because if you're not careful, you do so much cardio that sort of it takes away not only all your fat, but then you lose some of the size in your muscles. And part of the show was having like a look. It's not like they ever said to us, you need to look like this, you need to have this amount of muscle on your body, but there was sort of an expectation. You're coming to Magic Mike Live.
Yeah, it's like common sense.
I mean,
if
if you're doing Magic Mike, bruh, you gotta look like Magic,
you
bruh.
absolutely 6 to 8 friends just sitting right here,
6 to 8 friends, bruh.
With 2 big ones on
With
top,
2
with the
big
pecs,
ones.
on the shoulders,
with the guardians up here.
Yeah, so I was trying to get to the gym, trying to do my strength training stuff, but I think what was more important for me was kind of having a consistent routine of waking up each day and taking myself to the gym. But if I wasn't going to do strength stuff, I would at least do some rehab or some stretching and, all that stuff. So it was sort of, I tried to establish myself a routine of waking up each morning, having a solid, breakfast of proteins and fats, a little bit of carbs as well, and then get down to the gym, do my session in the morning. If it was our day off, then maybe I'd do that in the afternoon, or I'd have a complete rest day just to make sure that I didn't, burn the candle at both ends, as they say. But yeah, so on performance days, I'd get up, have breakfast, go down to the gym, do my workout for an hour and a half, come back home, refuel, and then I'd sort of have a few hours to hang out, do some admin, stretch, just kind of rest the body before we'd have to get into the theatre. And they always brought us into the theatre, I think it was about an hour and a half before show, just so we could get in there. We'd warm up as a group on stage, roll out anything. If you had any injuries or any niggly things that you needed to suss out, they brought in a physio once a week, so you could kind of go to them and sort it all out. So yeah, that was my training. I didn't do too much like cardio training during it because 10 shows a week was enough for me.
10 shows a week, bro. That's insane. 10 shows. 10.
A lot of fun. It was the first couple weeks of doing shows. I was spewing afterwards. Like I was, getting to the end of the week and I was just, my body felt lethargic. I was, genuinely backstage after the first couple shows we'd done, just like heaving because I just, I couldn't get enough oxygen in my lungs and I just wasn't used to it yet. But after about 3 weeks of performing, you sort of, your
like
body
get used to
adjusts.
it,
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So give it
That's
30 days and it'll sort of come right. And then also like the adrenaline was helping us get through the first period. But then once that wore off, I think for me it was probably around month 3 of performing that the adrenaline stopped sort of kicking in because you got used to the lights, you got used to the stage, you got used to the crowd, and it became a job, and you're going in there going, okay, we're going to work today. And so we would start having pre-workout to help us get ready for stage, and then like I said, all the other supplements would just help you on the recovery side. So after shows I'd put back a protein shake just to make sure that I didn't wake up the next day feeling sore. I'd have magnesium at night just before I went to bed to kind of help me go to sleep because you're just still kind of pumped up on adrenaline at the end of the night, but also just so you woke up the next day and your muscles weren't as tired and sore and you could get ready to go again for another 2 or 3 shows.
Bro, that's crazy, bro.
Yeah.
So with like all of this, so obviously Magic Mike has played like a crazy part of your journey. Let's maybe bring a little bit back because I feel like we talked about this the last time we caught up about the brothers. Bruh, so you guys are like back-to-back champions, bruh. You guys
2 times.
2 times, bruh. In the hardest division, bruh.
In his intro too. He's just like, the brothers 2 times.
Yeah. I'm like, bruh.
Highlight that, bruh.
Because this is, people got to understand, bro. People got, sorry, and if people are watching me with the YouTube, I'm just messing around with the setup. But people got to understand, bro, like 2-time champions, like that's difficult to do, bro. And the way that you guys did it back to back with the crew that you guys had, and even the second year, if I'm not mistaken, you guys went with less numbers.
Yes.
So,
we did.
Like, how has that whole process even affected the way that you are now? Because obviously, like, we know those who like have been to Worlds, how hard it is to train, to prepare for, especially from here, like from New Zealand. So for you transitioning into Magic Mike and the rest of your journey, bro, how has that process for you helped?
No, for sure. It definitely instilled a work ethic and an understanding of like all those recovery tools and all those tools to help my body perform consistently. That was something that I learned through the Brothers. So just before the Brothers, I was fortunate enough to be invited to sort of be part of Identity Dance Crew. And I have to credit, sort of being with them when they were going on their world's journey. I was put in as one of their reserves. And so being a reserve, I was there at every training that they did, but I also just took notes because I wanted to understand how these guys who were that sort of step above me in terms of age and maturity were training and all that. And so, I was there with them and I was taking notes. And then I think I just sort of took some of those processes across to the Brothers. And that was how we started working, was based off of how we saw ID training. And so there was, we were creating our routine in the evenings, but we made sure that we were doing fitness trainings at least, I think it was maybe 3 times, possibly twice a week. Of just pure fitness training. So we get up at 6 a.m. and we go down and just do some cardio stuff. And then we also managed to get a gym membership through Jackson's, one of the boys in the Brothers, Jackson's mum, Lisa, who, Lisa Tuare, thank you very much for
Shout out to
giving
Lisa.
us the gym
Lisa.
membership. She took us down and she's a personal trainer. And so she put us through sort of a routine that we're able to keep to sort of help ourselves get stronger and fitter. But also the second year we went back, we knew that we wanted to look bigger on stage because from our previous year's experience, we knew that we were sort of the smaller white boys in the category that we were in. So we knew that we wanted to get a little bit bigger. And so we worked with her for sort of 9 months in terms of just strength training, gaining muscle mass. Yep. And so, like those were all the processes that I then took to my own personal journey with Magic Mike. But I mean, with Brothers, like we tried to do everything sort of, as technically right as possible. And so I was chatting about this with the boys the other day, went out for dinner together, and we were just laughing about, like, back then we studied the rule book. We'd go through and be like, okay, cool, this is what the judges are looking for. If we do this, then they'll give us, extra points. If we do that, we'll take some points. So we went through, and when we were creating our routines, not only was it, us having fun in the studio and coming up with the most creative things possible, but we were also then, after creating the draft, we would then go and look at, okay, well, what are they looking for? And sort of tick off all those little things that were in the rule book. And so I think there was just a technical element that I started learning in terms of creating art and looking at, I guess, when we were all training together, that I then took on, and I've continued in my own art form to take with me. Just looking at, what the stage is like. The stage for Magic Mike is so much different to the world stage, because the world stage, you have 180 degree, you're just facing out to the audience, whereas in the audience for Magic Mike, it was 360. So when it came time to me creating, sort of, because they gave us choreography, but then they gave us moments to freestyle. And, Nate, you can do a flip, and you can, whatever you want to do. That's there. Mad. So then I took that process for myself, and I started looking at, okay, well, how can I make this so it's most effective for everyone to see, and where's the bit that I can, most highlight and entertain the audience with, movement or whatever it was. So that kind of technical element got taken in, if that makes sense. But yeah, I think mostly it was the fitness regime that we sort of established when we were training.
So now, now that you've kind of explained, just that whole process, like, especially moving forward now, like, what would be like a tip, or even just, what would you say to other dancers who are looking for different avenues to, like, go down? And what would you say to those people who are, like, maybe wanting to even follow, like, what you're doing, bro? What would you say to them?
I would say, one, look at as many opportunities as you can in your home country, to just establish yourself, sort of a network, one, but two, places to learn from. So I like I said, I grew up in the studio doing jazz and contemporary and tap and hip hop, and yes, I followed hip hop sort of mostly with where my career path went, but I've done theater shows along the way that were contemporary based. I've done theater shows where we had a little bit of tap element in there too. I've done street performances, I've done busking, I've come across to like the freestyle scenes as well that was outside of the choreography scene. So just ways to learn from different artists that allows your own sort of what's the word, arsenal to grow, in terms of who you are as an artist and what you can provide. And so then when you go overseas, which is then the next step I was going to say, is you need to get overseas and start making friends over there too, because that's where the money is and that's where, the big creative directors are. You're going to have a lot to offer them. So they say, hey, can you do this? And you go, I can do that. And you're not just a one sort of laned person, although you can be really good in that sense. This is just my own personal journey. I don't think I've ever been the best. I think I've just been willing to work harder than most people, and so like that's helped me sort of get out. And I'm not, like, I don't win everything. I think we got like pretty fortunate, I think, but also we put in a lot of work for Brothers, so obviously I'm not going to downplay that. But like when I go out on my own, like you get so many no's. You go to auditions and you get no's, and like gone to battles and I've lost, like you and I battle, and you got to take the losses as well and learn from them, and I've just always been willing to, I guess, to learn and work really hard. So I'd say in your own country, do that, and then when you're ready and you feel like you have like a good grounding and good foundations, you have to go overseas. And I know you guys have done the same, where Crump is amazing here, but you guys have had to go overseas to get the name out and because that's where the bigger sort of competitors are, and the branding and all that. So it's the same in sort of the choreography world. You got to get overseas. America is obviously the place where a lot of money is, and although I wouldn't downplay Asia right now. I think Asia's got a lot of money. But just personally, I always saw America as being the place I wanted to go to. So get over there, even just like I did, go on a tourist visa and just go meet people and make friends and learn from them, learn, you know, what to do, what not to do, where's the best place to go after that. And then just be open to say, I think also being a yes man, just being open to saying yes to everything, is like, obviously there's like a line where you don't, if you feel like it compromises who you are as a person and your own personal values, don't say yes to it. But if you're kind of like, oh no, I don't think I'll be, I think it's not that cool, it's like, you don't know, like there's so much there that you could learn from. Absolutely. Like, and be willing to look like a bit of a dick, in the beginning, because I feel like, there's going to be someone there who will help you out and will teach you a bunch of stuff that you never knew before, and that's just going to help you grow so much. So I think that's the way that I look at it. And even that's something that I took into sort of, I lived in Australia after Magic Mike finished, and I started doing a day job at a club, and it was, just doing some promo work. It wasn't fantastic, but it's, it's an opportunity to be out in the sun during the day, and there's a little bit of dance work involved, but otherwise I was walking around saying hello to people. But in the evening, in the evening, they did a night show, which was all fire dancing. And that was never something that I thought that I'd ever look at.
Wait, you did fire dancing, bro?
Yeah, so I learned how to do some fire dancing recently. So
that's a vibe, bro.
So there was like a really cool course over in the Gold Coast that I took part in called Ignite, and they set up. They also do like hoops and stilts and all these specialty skills. But one of the skills that they were running a course for was doing fire staff. So there was single staff, a double staff, and a dragon staff, if you know what fire performance is. But they're just these different props that you use, and you obviously light them on fire at the end, and then you learn how to sort of move with them. And so that was another skill that, it's not dance, but it was something within the movement range, and it allowed me to then open up my network of performance opportunities, because it was like, oh, well, now I can fire perform. And in fact, moving into this next job that I'm about to go to in America, that was one of the skills that they sort of have within their show, not the specific show that I'm going to, but as a company, they're known for doing all these different, specialty acts. And when I did my audition for them, I put at the end of it, like, it wasn't a main piece within because obviously like hip hop is my main thing, but I put in and I said, oh, well, I can do a little bit of this. And I filmed myself doing some fire stuff as well. So that just, I don't know if that was maybe a deciding factor for me getting another job, but I think, being willing to not be good at something and then going and just trying it out. And even, I don't love fire performing. Like, it's not something that I'm like, super passionate about, but like, I can now appreciate it. And if I see someone giving something a go, I'll go, oh, well, let me try that. This is what I learned when I was doing it, so just having that scope and being able to widen your knowledge base, I think is pivotal in helping you get to that next level for sure.
That's mad, bro.
At least my own experience. I mean,
that's crazy. Even just putting it at the end of your audition with the fire dancing and stuff, and just leaving it there just in case. It might lead to something, it might not, but at least the option's there. Like, if you don't put it there and it could have led to something, you never know. But that's crazy, bro. That's mad. Yeah, man. Oh yeah.
Fire.
Sorry, you're all good, bro. No, you're all good, bro. We appreciate you for real. So. Yeah, with that whole thing, in terms of like commercially you're pushing stuff, and theater-wise you're pushing stuff, like, where do you see, obviously we had Battle Zone the week just gone and stuff like that, so being back, like, what are some things that you've kind of noticed with like the dance scene at the moment? Let's talk about that. That's a great
question. Yeah.
Where do you see the dance scene right now? While I try, just muck around with this on the side.
Okay, so I've only been back for a couple weeks. You guys know that, and I was gone from New Zealand for, you could say, 2.5 years. I popped back here briefly for a couple days for my sister's 21st, and then I shot out again. So I never really got the chance in 2.5 years to look at the scene. And even just before that, the scene, we were in COVID, and so possibly it's been 3.5 years since I was actually on the ground in the dance community, looking at what there is. And I feel like at that time, I was starting to get a little worried about people wanting to gain success through following mentorship and not actually working and creating themselves. So I think it's probably something that you guys, especially being in the freestyle community, you guys understand, but we're artists in and of ourselves, and we like creating our own pieces, right? And that's how we came up when we were creating crews and we were competing, was it was just you and your friends, and you would just, create. You never had someone to tell you what to do.
Speak about it, bro.
Yeah,
Speak about it.
So you never had someone to like tell
need.
you what to do. It was always just you and your friends learning from online and going, oh, that looks cool. And so you fell, you tripped up, and you learned, and we got 6th place, 4th place, 4th place, 4th place, 4th place, 4th place. Oh, finally 3rd place. Oh, finally, so you learned across the years, like, why am I not good enough? Why am I? Now I understand, and now I'm able to put out something that is at higher caliber enough to place.
Yeah.
And so I think that learning process, I was worried 3.5 years ago that wasn't happening anymore, because, and I'm not knocking the companies, because I think they're incredible that we're now able to give opportunities to a lot of people that didn't have it before, and the people who are in charge of the companies, you can sort of make money off of doing that now, so you can follow your passion, and that's amazing. But I think for the kids, they go, oh, I want to be part of a crew. I want to make it on the world stage. Oh, well, the best crew right now is ID. I'm going to go listen and just whatever Josh says, like, I'm going to do, or whatever, Chevy or Tans or whoever else is like leading that. I'm going to do what they say, and I'm just going to be a great dancer and not create kind of for myself. And so I was worried about the creative element within the hip hop community. The flip side to that is I think the dancers now are a lot better than what we were, because we had to divide our time between creating and actually performing and dancing and all. And so I feel like the kids now are more well trained, because all they have to focus on is executing someone else's choreography. So they learn way better than we did how to execute someone else's choreography. So I think the flip side to that is amazing, and I think that it sets them up to go overseas and be incredible performers underneath another choreographer, because that choreographer for Chris Brown or whoever it is will be able to look at them, put choreography on them, and they'll be able to adapt and just perform it, and that'll be awesome. The problem is then I think when it comes to them wanting to take that next step, if their body gets too old to be a performer anymore and they want to be a choreographer or a creative, they maybe haven't got that same foundation that we have, where you had to learn when you were younger, and you had to trip up and fall and make really crap pieces of choreography 9 times out of 10, and then you have that one piece that everyone's like, oh, that's great, and you're like, yes, I did it. Yeah. So that, I think, are the two sides of that coin there. And like I said, I've only been back a couple weeks, but watching Battlezone, I feel like we're getting back to the place where people can create their own stuff, and it's coming out incredibly, even just the battle scene. Like, I haven't seen the crew scene, but in just the singles and the doubles and the team battles, like, some of the stuff that was coming out on stage was fantastic. I mean, you look at people like Rian and Raul, like, them just being, they're so young, and obviously they've taken a lot of inspiration and they've learnt from great mentors, but now they're in the studio by themselves going, oh, well, what if we do this and we do that, and that's the process that I think if we can marry up people who have great mentors and are willing to listen and learn from great mentors, but then also go away and create their own stuff, you're going to have an incredibly well-rounded artist. So I think that's where we came from, we didn't have the mentors, and so we just had to learn and create ourselves. And then we got to the other side where we had amazing mentors, but no one was willing to sort of create for themselves. And now possibly we're getting to that balance.
For sure.
I don't know. That's just from what I've seen. I could be totally wrong, but from that one event,
that's mad, bro.
It's dope to
I think it's cool to hear your insight, bro. That's super cool. And I think the gems about. Because again, like you said, bro, it's like a double-edged sword. It's like, when you bring up mentors, and then you bring up the fact that there's a lack of first-hand experience. Because in our, you're right, bro. Like, back in a couple years back, the generations before the dance scene now, it was very much about create, do this, figure it out. And then now, like you're saying, like, yeah, you're right. Like a lot of our generation this time around are getting taught great choreography, great foundations, but there is that lack of, just grab a group of friends and just experience the journey on its own. And there's some great points to it, because then, as a creative, as a artist, you begin to learn like, this is what you do. And then you learn from that, and it's dope, because then you become a 2-time champion.
2 times.
And then you go tour around the world, bruh.
I think also like another thing, just as you were saying that, I think to touch on is the collaboration is one of those key things that you guys probably know as well, that it allows you to learn and to grow from just being in a room with someone else and saying, hey, I've got this idea, and they say, well, I've got this idea, and you come to an agreement on it. I think that's another thing that we possibly didn't have when they're just listening to a mentor. It's like they don't learn that sort of collaboration and that ability to listen to one another, and to those interpersonal communication skills, they possibly went out the window. And from what I can say from being overseas and taking jobs, is that's still relevant. Even if you are just a performer, that's still relevant to be in the space with other human beings and be able to I guess just communicate for yourself. And even sometimes a choreographer will go, hey, anyone else got like what would you like to put in here? Like I said, for Magic Mike, they were like, oh, well, this is the choreography, and then, well, this is for you. What would you like to do? So you have to learn to collaborate with the choreographer there, even just as a performer. So, if we're getting that balance again, then hopefully that's coming through too, because I feel like that's, even if you were terrible as like with your choreography as a crew, and you were placing like last, which I've definitely been there, you still learned how to communicate with your friends that you had, and you learned through the bad times and the good times. There's been so many fights in the studio that we've had that we've come out the other side and just you're so much stronger. Like
But
that happens.
Who
not like when
who?
we're friends, it's brothers. When we were in the studio, it was not all like rainbows and sunshine. It was like, no, I've seen all the boys like break down and cry. Like I've done the same thing. Like when you're in that where you care about something and you collectively care about it that much, and also it's for such a long time. You're competing, or you're aiming to compete in 9 months' time, but you start here, and so it's such a long time where the motivation's gonna dip for some people, and so you got to help pull each other back up, and there's arguments along the way, and but you learn to be so much closer and better at communicating and understand each other so much more, and learn to love each other, kind of through that process. And again, I think coming back to where the dance scene is at now, possibly we're coming back round to that, where you have those mentors who can help interject sometimes where, and stop some of those mistakes that we made early on. But possibly that other side of the skill is coming up, and we're not only developing well-rounded artists, but also well-rounded human beings within the space of the art world. Yeah, if that makes sense.
For sure.
Makes total sense, bro. Straight up. Bro, I would love to know, like, in terms of, you were talking about your technical perspective or your technical approach to like HHI. Do you feel like that is something that a lot of other teams can incorporate within their process in order to, like, obviously, again, like, bro, you guys won back to back, bro.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people, bro. You got to understand, back-to-back champions. Like, the only other crew that's ever done that was Request, but they never did it in the adults division.
Oh, really?
They never.
Yeah.
It was only varsity,
and then adults.
Then they went to adults, and then they won. But, like, to go back-to-back in the adults comp, bro,
that's hard.
That's insane, bro. So, like...
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I just want you to talk about it, bro, because I think give us an insight, bro, because this is so dope.
You ready to rewind this part 2?
Hi, for all of you guys doing HHI, this is
back to back, and he about to drop one. He's just gonna go like this. And
he's already dropped
gem right now, bro.
He's already dropped like a couple, so it's like, bro.
All right, so I appreciate that, man. You guys are funny. I think so. I definitely took inspiration from watching Paris do it, because obviously, with the amount of work that she's done and the amount of gold medals that they ended up getting at HHI, it was like, man, that's a no-brainer. You got to look at what this girl's doing. And I just remember her saying, I think it was her that said it, one thing, that you should have a moment every 8 seconds, because you only have 2 minutes on stage, or a minute and a half, or however long it is. But every 8 seconds, you should have a moment where it catches their eye, and it keeps the judges from looking down at their paper and writing. You just want them watching the whole time, right? So that's what, and you look at that's exactly what she's done. Is someone will come through and they'll do a number, and then they'll pop, and someone else will come through, and then something will happen over here, and then it will happen over here. So you're constantly looking around for stuff. So that's something that we took on board, and I think that's something that, I didn't say that, but someone else said it, and we followed that, and it worked for us, and I think people could do the same. That's not within the rules that you have to do that, but it's just obviously a tried and what's the word? Tried and true, I guess is the sort of the way, tried and true tactic. But like what we did was, like I said, we followed it, just the rules to a T. And I think when you're in a competition space like that, where the judges are all in agreement on what the rules are, and it's not a newly established comp, so it's not like the judges have to go backstage and decide together what the rules are. It's like it's been around for how many years. It's right there in front of them. It's like, if you do this, you get X amount of points. If you do this, you get this amount of points. And actually the way it's done is, the way that it was explained to me, was they have 100 points to give you, right? Or when you come on stage, you have 100 points in, say, there's 10 categories, so there's 10 points per category. Let's say you don't do that one thing. All they'll do is take away the points on that. If you don't do that thing, they'll take away the points. So you already have all the points there. All you got to do is just make sure that you don't lose the points. And so that's the way that we thought about it. So it says you need to have, I need to look at the rules again, but it's been so long. But when we were reading, it's like you need to have 3 styles, and they have to be 30 seconds each. Okay, cool. That's what we're doing. Which styles are we doing? This one, this one, this one. Okay, and we're going to do it for 30 seconds, 30 seconds, 30 seconds. Cool. Now we just got to figure out how to blend them all together and not cut away. And like, I remember us being in the studio and us going and looking at the mix, and it was like, ooh, it's 29 seconds. Okay, we need 1 more second of choreography for that to actually give us the full amount of points. Because if we did it for 29 seconds, they would take away 1 point in the styles category. So like, just taking it down to a T on what those rules are, and just following that directly, like it's science. Sort of. It's obviously it's an art form, but when it comes to competition, it's a science of breaking it down into like, well, I've got X amount of this and Y amount of that, and I just need to make sure that I do them all. So we broke it down like that. It was just very technical, and so I wish that I could say that there's something easier than just putting in that kind of work, but I think that's what it is looking at the rules and looking at what it is that you're competing in, which category, which how many styles you have to do. Make sure you don't do any tricks that are just unnecessary. Make sure that you don't lose costume items on stage. All those little things that you're like, duh, but people don't really do, because we get too caught up in, oh man, that looks fun and that looks cool, and I want to wear this because it just looks really cool on stage. And it's like, but why are you doing that? Let's break it down to why. And so even talking about like tricks, like we're well known for our flips and stuff, and we came up in the time where HHI was more of a acrobatic, I think it was like an aerobics comp back in the day. So the more you did tricks, the more points you actually got. And that's why people were just throwing tricks, and it didn't matter if you landed on your ass, like you were just throwing them. Whereas by the time we came into the scene, it was like, you can do tricks, but they're not going to give you any extra points. What you're going to get points for is crowd interaction and crowd participation. So if you do a trick that the crowd really likes, and if they go off at it, then obviously the judges are more inclined to keep those points for you or give you more points with that one. But we just made sure, like if we were doing tricks in the studio and it just looked slightly risky, not worth it. Let's throw it out. Like we're not gonna do that. Like even look at when we did the second year competition, Connor did a double front flip, and because we had this sound in the music that was a bam,
which is the most iconic trick, I feel like, just in recent years of tricks and crews and stuff like that. I feel like Connor's double front flip thing, or I don't know how he did it, but bruh, that's so iconic, bruh.
It was, and it was something that in the studio we were like, amazing, and he nailed it. But then what happened when we performed it for the first time in America on that semi-final stage is he almost didn't land that second front flip. He did his first, and then he did his second, and he stumbled a little bit as somehow his foot got caught on something, and he managed to catch himself, so they didn't count it as a fall, but it was risky enough that he himself said, I'm not going to do it. Like, I'm not going to put us at risk with that.
Yeah.
But there's no point in me trying to look cool just for us to lose some points because I might not nail that properly, you know. And we had complete faith in him that if he went back and rehearsed it one more time, he would have nailed it. But just for himself and the understanding of the way that we had worked for so long to create the routine, he was like, there's no point in giving that extra risk. So having that is you know, vital to your crew. Like, there's no point in doing stuff that's cool just for the sake of being cool. Like, you kind of got to look at it as a technical perspective.
Yeah.
Another thing with tricks that we all had to learn was never let your preparation show. So, you know, obviously if you're competing, you're dancing over here, and then one person goes out to the side, me as a judge, I'm going to sit there and go, oh, they're about to prepare for a trick, and they did their backflip. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I saw the preparation, I saw what was coming, it distracted me from what was happening here. And sorry, that's probably not a great motion to do, is it? It's kind of like from what's happening here. Hey, do you, someone online is going to call me up for this.
Where's the beat?
Freaking A. So, like, that's something that we had to do. And
Yeah.
the first year that we did it, I did this front flip, round off, back flip. But the way that we set it up was making sure that it wasn't like me running out to the side.
Yeah.
And me coming back in. Like, we tried to make it so I was here and then everyone fed off of me. Yeah. So it was like you were watching them and then suddenly, oh, shoot, now I see him flipping. So it was sort of, we were trying to hide every trick to the last second possible so it pops out. Yeah. So little things like that, I think.
Sorry, that flip, iconic to that set, bruh. Because it wasn't just like a normal, what's it called, like round off back tuck. Like, my man's front flipped first, and then and then it was like you did the what do they call it?
The little delay.
Yeah, the little delay. So anyone who knows like routines and flips, you specifically know that combo is iconic to that routine, bro. Just saying.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. I take definitely inspiration from others. We used to see the Philippine crews would just do the maddest, and I think the first time. Yeah, and the first time I saw a delay backflip and made me go, oh my gosh, I want to do that, was one of the dudes that a round off, and he delayed backflip, and then he was in midair, and then he punched his arm at the last second and spun and landed. And so just the idea of floating, I was like, oh, I want to do that. And so I went back, and you just take inspiration. I don't think there's anything new under the sun. Yeah. I think, you know, and obviously if people are saying like I appreciate it that people would say, oh, that's iconic, and you guys are the first to maybe do that. But it's like, well, possibly, but I think more likely someone else did it first, or we've gone and pieced together two ideas from two different people and created something possibly original in that sense. But you know, I just take it with a grain of salt. But so thank you, thank you for saying that.
Sure, I'm gonna give you your flowers, bro. You already know.
But so like with tricks, that was huge for us because obviously that was like I said, we're the smaller white boys, and that's something that we always trained, and it's something that we wanted to incorporate, but we just had to make sure that it didn't affect our performance negatively. So being smart about those things. And then, you know, being smart about, okay, well, you know, costuming, like how can we make sure that this is the most, you know, effective use of our costuming, and what are we really trying to say on stage? Like, are we trying to look cool? Or so like I said, the second year we went, we wanted to bring it back to the first year. The first year we went, we knew we were smaller than most, and we were doing the gym, but it's not like we were focusing on trying to build a huge amount of muscle, and we knew that we couldn't because we only had, you know, a few months until the comp. And so we decided, well, what if we wear hoodies? We'll just puff ourselves out on stage. And it wasn't for the fact that, you know, it's not like we were cold on stage. It was we wore hoodies and we were sweating under there. But we wore hoodies because then we were able to fill out the stage in just that small little way that was just, you know, without us having to, you know, bulk up hugely. And then, you know, like the color of the hoodies, we're like, well, what's most effective in terms of color? Well, red is apparently provokes emotion within the human brain, and so when people see something
I
red,
thought of everything.
little
that's
things
who
like
actual
that.
man.
So little things like if you can take it's a science, you take it
Yeah.
down to that, and especially in that realm where there's no room for little slip ups and everything counts. I think in different competitions there's a different way to look at it. Like when we went and competed against Prestige in the one-on-one battle zone, that was a complete different process because it was different rules, different circumstances, you're playing to different people, but we tried to break it down in the same sort of scientific way as like, okay, well, how can we best achieve the goal that we need to achieve?
Yo, that was mad.
So that
Wait,
battle fire too.
yeah, that battle was
fire.
mad too. So that whole battle, I remember, and shout out to the boys from Prestige. Like
Absolutely.
I'm Prestige, so
Were
it's
you
all
in
good.
that battle too?
Nah,
No,
so that was the year
before?
before I joined. But what was crazy was that I got to watch the show, and again, to this day, that battle is, for the moments, for everything that happened, like during and after, it's one of the most iconic crew battles that I've seen in my era since I've been around. But what was crazy, this dude Carlos, bruh. So how'd you guys make that idea? Because basically, for the listeners out there, they had an idea where they wore, or one of the boys, Carlos, he wore 2 shirts, right? And they had a whole setup to where he took off his hoodie or something like that. He took off his hoodie. He was wearing the Prestige shirt. The boys came back in, grabbed the collar, rips the shirt, bruh. And then it had the brothers like underneath. To this day, bro, I feel like that moment is like it's like disrespect, but it's all battles.
battle,
Like, it's
bro.
a battle.
It's a battle.
But-
Culture,
It
bro.
was.
Gee, that was honestly like so iconic, because to me that was like kill off.
Man.
And you guys did that, if I'm not mistaken, off memory, off top, you guys did that in your last round.
We
And,
did.
bruh, like
We
to
did.
me, I was like, yo, because even the way that you guys set everything up, I can't remember exactly, but I remember, yeah, Carlos pops out, shows his shirt, or you guys do the hoodie thing, and you guys are like, what?
Yeah,
You come in, boom, ripped it.
Yeah.
Insane, bro.
Yeah,
So
because
that-
we were all wearing the All Brothers shirts underneath, and we looked at him, and he had the Prestige shirt on. So we went, hey, what's it?
Whose
Rip it off, and then he had
idea
it
was it
underneath.
to rip the shirt?
So that was Carlos. I mean, look, I got to credit Carlos. We all credit Carlos with, you look at some of the most iconic moments in terms of choreography on stage with taking off our hoodie at Worlds, and with the hat tricks that he was doing. Like, that's Carlos's brain for that stuff was incredible. And man, I miss that guy. And being in the studio with him you'd be like, hey, because he'd come in and he'd go, oh, well, boys, I was labbing something the other day. You want to watch it? And you go, yeah, absolutely. And he'd do it, and you go, how can we make that so now there's 6 of us doing it?
Because he's
So-
been around the battle scene back in the day, and he's always been
Yeah.
around, so he's always been labbing and
I
stuff.
think being a crumper too, like that's something you guys
so
are incredible with in the crump scene. Like
Mm.
me being able to come in and watch you guys, and obviously Carlos was my first experience of that, and then going into seeing the rest of you guys do it. You guys are so creative, just with what you come up with, not only on the spot, but what you pre-lab and then you bring to the battle. Like, that's that was something I was so nervous about when I was coming to battle you. I was like, oh my gosh, how am I gonna, like, obviously I can do a couple of styles and I can bring some creativity in my own sense, but you guys are so iconic and so, man, I want to say intelligent with how you guys create pictures on stage and say something with your movement, and then there's, in the same sense, it's scientific. You have the art form, but you're trying to say something, and you guys find a way to say that's I don't think any other dance style kind of does it. So that's obviously, I think him being in the crump scene led to him having all these really original ideas, and even to the point that after we did it at Worlds, there was a submission that we got asked to do for Chinese. I don't want to get this wrong. Big Bang was the group, I believe. It's a maybe K-pop group in over there in Asia, and they were putting on a music video, and they wanted us to it was us, and when you do submissions, there's sort of a couple choreographers from all over the place who are asked to put together pieces of choreography, and then you send it in, and they pay you all the same, but then at the end of the day, like, they can use it however they want. But they came to us and they wanted to use the hoodie trick, And so, and Carlos was like, man, that's crazy that there's like now a huge group over there that wants to use the hoodie thing. And so when you watch the music video, I think the music video is called So Beautiful. If you look it up online, you'll see them do the hoodie with their jackets. And it's, that has to be credited to Carlos because he just, with all those little ideas. So bringing it back to Battlezone, look, when we're in the studio together for both Battlezone, for HHI, for any time where, even for, gigs, we just like having fun. So we just we come in and sometimes someone will have something prepared. Other times we'll get in there and we'll just look for a song together and we'll come up with whatever idea that we can. And usually it starts off with oh my God, can you imagine if we did this? Can you imagine if we did that?
Can you imagine?
Can you imagine?
Can you imagine?
Imagination, bro.
Absolutely. And I'm like, the boys know, like, they got to a point where I would talk and I would say something and they'd all just kind of go, that's never going to happen. Because I would say stuff like, could you imagine if Connor was on top of my shoulders and then I pushed him off and he backflipped and then Riley, you were underneath and you caught him and then Carlos came and like rolled him off to the side. So little things like that. And just in my head, I was like, that could work. And the boys go, no, it couldn't. We appreciate it. But what we would do is we'd kind of have that level of thinking and we'd all contribute some ideas at that level. And it probably wouldn't happen, but then from that would spur the next idea.
Yeah.
You could like pick it apart.
Absolutely. Be like, well, we can't. Absolutely. Well, we can't do that, but we could do this. And I think with the t-shirt trick, it was that exact conversation. We were just sitting there and we were dead tired at the end of the night of, we were just training and creating pieces of choreography that we could use within the battle sense. And I think he probably just piped up and he was like, boys, what if we like ripped their shirt, like, and then I got off, like crump wise, I got off. We all went, oh, could we get away with that? Could we, do you think? And he said, man, like it would be maybe a last resort thing. Like if we really think that the battle's coming down to the wire. And so that's what it was it was one of those tricks that we had hidden up our sleeves and we hoped that we could use it, obviously, because we were like, oh my God, this is incredible. And obviously now it's spoken about. But at the time it came down to, I'm pretty sure it was, we'd done 3 rounds and then the judges had called it a tie. So it was that sort of last round. And so we were like, oh, we have to do it. We have to do it. Because when we were battling, we would be standing there and in our circle and they would play the song. Okay, boys, we're going to do, we gave them names. We were like, oh, we'll do the eagle. And so the eagle meant like we had 15 seconds of choreography and something would happen that sort of related to an eagle in the sense of, we'll do the eagle. Or we had like the basketball. And so we did a piece of choreography and then Jackson came up and took off his brother's thing and like dunked on them. And so little things like that. And so it got to that final round and I'm pretty sure we got in the huddle and we were like, oh, boys, we got to do the t-shirt. We got to do it now. Like it's come down to the wire.
What a moment.
So
what a moment.
So I mean, we just had fun making that stuff though, and like, obviously it was a different realm for us to compete like that because when you're an HHI, you're competing in front of judges and you're facing a crowd, and the other competitors are backstage, so you don't have to worry about them. But when it came to Battlezone, they were right in front of us, and so we were not only performing for the judges and for the crowd, but there was like, you're looking into someone's eyes while you're competing. And that was just a whole new energy that I'd never experienced before. I don't think anyone else but maybe Carlos had as well. And it brought a whole new level of nervousness and adrenaline to it. But we're glad that we managed to come out the other side and had such a good time doing it. So, shout out to the Prestige boys. Obviously, during the battle, we were all heated. And it was even before the battle, we started doing like online sort of rocking each other up, like the banter online. And it was, and it's funny because they did something online and we thought about it for a day. We saw it and we were like, do we want to respond? Like, I don't know if we really, like, we've never been like that. We're just the boys who go to HHI. Like, we don't want to bring a bad name to ourselves for like starting beef or drama or whatever. And then we decided, surely, like, if we're just careful about it, like it won't get out of hand. And then, we did an online video back, and then they sent one back after that. So the New Zealand dance community kind of saw us all online doing that, and it became sort of a fun thing. And when we got there on the day, and we were in our own little space, and they're in their own little space, and we all shook hands afterwards. But beforehand, it was like, okay, now it's for real. Like everyone's watching, and okay, we got to perform. So there was that added element of pressure there too, and. but yeah, I mean, shout out to them because they've been such a staple in the New Zealand dance community for so long, and they were there, before we were created as a crew, and Alistair as a leader has been there through the generations, and he's still going. Like, I still see him online still, now he's teaching kids in high school, and that's incredible. So yeah.
Nah, shout out to
but
you,
love.
bro, for real, man. Hey, listen, we got to call it just because we got to shoot off to another meeting. But bro, we are so thankful to have you on the whatever this is. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even want to call it a podcast or whatever, but like,
rewind
again,
it. There was so much, bro.
yeah, hard out. And I think it just goes to show, like, someone like you who is willing to like push through, persevere, and just stay true to yourself and your values, bro. You can go a long way. And so I appreciate the fact that you're here, willing to share a bit of your story, because again, your story, bro, it's so important, and it's so important for other people to hear, and especially for this generation and even like generations before you, bro. Like, just to be encouraged and just to hear like the ups and the downs and everything that we see on social media. It's what we see, but there's a lot of things, behind the scenes that you have to go through. And again, bro, we'll run it back like another time, and we'll hear more stories, bro.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's dope. But yeah, I just want to give you your flowers, bro. Like, you are definitely someone who's put in the work, who's put in the effort to be in the position that you're in. And I feel like a lot of people should, I know a lot of people already do, but I feel like a lot of people need to understand how much of a giant you are in the scene, and everything that you've done past, present, and in the future, bro, is going to be mad. So, bro, we're here to just give you your flowers, hear a little bit of your story, bro, and we can't wait to hear more, bro, for real.
I'm humbled. Thank you guys very much, and I appreciate all the kind words. Like, that's, coming from New Zealand, we don't really think about ourselves that way, but thank you guys so much for the opportunity to come and share, and I look forward to doing it again. I mean, what you guys are doing with this platform and giving free information to people and bringing up some of, the information, like the war stories that no one, everyone sees it online and they're like, oh, that's amazing. But, all the things behind the scenes, absolutely. I wish that I had that back in the day. So back in the day, back in my day.
You're still young, bro. I'm back in the day.
What are you talking about? 2.5 years.
Well, yeah. Anyways, how about like people that might see this that don't yet follow you? How can they find you?
I am Nathan Kara on Instagram. I think I might be on Twitter as well, not that I ever use it, and on YouTube. So NathanKara.
We'll run that down below too.
Absolutely.
For sure. Hell yeah, shop brother.
Thank you
We're
guys.
gonna hear about his trip too. When you get back,
absolutely.
Back on.
Absolutely.
We'll
back on,
bro.
run too.
Hell yeah.
Run it back.